we were pissing neon green every day.
The big ball of heat in the sky was too much.
I thought there was a bear.
Reality goes, yeah, fresco. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, everybody. What's up, everybody? Welcome to
StouryTime.
StouryTime.
Hey everybody, welcome to StouryTime with John and Friends. I'm your host, John. Today we have another great episode for you. You may know today's guest as the frontman of the band Blacklite District. Please welcome my new friend, Kyle Pfeiffer. Hey Kyle, thanks so much for joining the show.
Of course, John. We appreciate being here, man.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Kyle Pfeiffer. I have been creating and performing music under the name Blacklite District for 15 plus years now. That's pretty much my identity at this point. And I make music and that's what I do. That's kind of my main thing, you know.
Absolutely.
Amongst a handful of other hobbies and things that I'm into. But yeah, the music is really, I feel like that's my thing. That's who I am. So, yep.
Very cool. What are some of your other hobbies?
You know, I like to collect Pokémon cards, specifically more high-end graded cards, things like that. Last year, I was training in flight simulators and doing flight lessons and, you know, just stuff like that. The music and the whole, you know, it's not so much just the music, but the business side of it and just all the hats that you wear these days as an artist, that takes up the majority of my time. And I'm still, you know, just as passionate about it today as I was when I first started. So I'm just grateful at the end of the day that I get to come on here, chat with people like you and work with like the team I have. And again, you know, for me, it really is about the music. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can I tell you real quick, one of the worst Pokemon stories ever? So I'm a big fan of Pokemon as well.
Yes.
Pokemon growing up for me, I was young, middle school maybe. I was not allowed to do Pokemon. I grew up in a born-again Christian household. I don't know why. It just was a thing. We weren't allowed to. But I acquired a lot of Pokemon cards from friends that were just extras. Yeah. And then over time, you know, I acquired all like the Hollow Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, like all the originals, you know.
Yeah.
And when I got into 9th or 10th grade, I was hanging out with my friend, and he goes, "Hey, do you still play Pokemon?" I was like, "No, not really," you know, trying to be cool. And he goes, "Let's go to the beach and light them on fire."
Oh, wow.
Oh, it breaks my heart. Yeah. I'm like, dude, all the first editions I would have had, you know, I could have retired already.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I had a first edition when I was in 3rd grade, 99, like when they came out of the Charizard and it got stolen out of my locker. And I was always bummed about that. I did acquire one about a year ago. That was kind of my main chase for a while. They're very pricey, as you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
yeah. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably the prized piece of my collection right now is that first edition Charizard for sure.
Very cool.
Nostalgia, man.
Absolutely. And it's funny too, because like I do Pokemon Go all the time, and people are like, What are you doing? I'm like, I just gotta see what's here, you know?
Oh yeah. No, my son, I have a son, Maddox, he's 11 years old. He plays it all the time. So whenever he and I are hanging out, he's always on it. I get it on it here and there. And to be fair, I've never actually played the game Pokemon, like with the cards or anything. I strictly collect. He's a bit more into the gaming, but I'm a big fan, and it's cool, man. It's cool how much even something like that has grown from like when we were kids. I don't know how old you are, but you know, from back in our day, so to speak.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's still sticking around. It's honestly probably more popular than ever. But
dude, some of the cards like now, I don't know if you're still into it at all, but like there's an Umbreon that people call Moonbreon. It's like this green Umbreon card, and that thing is like $1,500 pulled out of a raw pack right now, and it's just crazy because the prices weren't even like that back in the day.
Right.
It's different now, but yeah, it's crazy to see the growth, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm more of like a collector in the sense of like I'm stocking up and just kind of holding on to it for potentially, you know,
for sure
selling it at a later date. When I come across something that's newer that, you know, it becomes a hot commodity, I'll try and grab a few boxes or whatever, and then just leave them in storage somewhere so that way I have them later on in life. But
yep, yeah. I got me and the son, we have a sealed collection as well, you know. Absolutely, man. So same boat for sure.
I love that. So I guess let's jump right into the music aspect. So where did the name Blacklite District come from?
Just really being like 16 years old with a few friends in the basement. Like it's really nothing crazy. I think I came up, I said at the time it was kind of like, oh, the red light district, like in Amsterdam was kind
Hmm.
of like I don't know, people thought it was like, I guess, cool or kind of a weird place or whatever it was. And my friend was there. We all loved like Black Sabbath. And he's like, dude, Blacklight. And it was really nothing more than that. There's been many times over the years that I wish I could basically change the name, but again, it's part of the story. I love that it kind of, to me, it was, not the meaning so much, but how it actually looks.
Right.
The black light being one word and not two different words. It's definitely grown on me over time. But yeah, there's really nothing that crazy behind the meaning, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's
Kind of
great
a
though. A lot of,
disappointing story, but yeah.
you know what? It doesn't always have to have a meaning. I played in a band that we toured for like 7 or 8 years.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
our name was The Traditional. And
Okay.
we got our name from a Yingling beer box. So
You know what's up then.
yeah,
Man.
I mean the hardest part about starting a band or being in a band is the name.
Absolutely.
Hands down. Writing
I
music
joke with
is
my
easy.
friends. I joke with my friends all the time. It's like, man, if I had to just like start a band or something now, I couldn't imagine the nightmare it would be having to come up with a name, especially because like everything's probably taken by now. I mean, to
Yeah.
find something that is not only original and not taken, but that sounds awesome, that sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
For sure.
So as far as the writing process goes, how does that all work?
For me, it's kind of evolved over the years. I mean, I don't know if you can relate, but when I was like a teenager, it was more of like grabbing the acoustic, coming up with something kind of on the spot. Nowadays, because I'm so into like the production side of things, a lot of times it'll start with, maybe I got the MIDI keyboard out and I'm just listening through sounds. And, typically it'll start with, on the computer, kind of structuring out the main chords of a song or the main parts, let's say like the 4-chord chorus, figuring out what that's going to be, building a beat behind it. Sometimes it's just hearing that over and over, a melody or a vocal will come to mind. But yeah, it pretty much starts out kind of like that. A handful of times I've had other producers send me tracks when, in the middle of my career, I've done a little bit of like hip hop styled stuff. I've tried to like evolve my sound over years and work with many different producers. So,
Mhm.
I've had a few people send in things. So I just try to keep it fresh and find the inspiration from as many places as possible. But typically it'll start with something simple. I listen to it over and over. There's a hook and kind of just build on it from there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. So are you a producer?
Yes, sir.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. So it's got to make it a little bit easier for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a producer in the sense that I produce a bunch of artists or that's like my thing.
Hmm.
As much as it is just me wanting to make the Blacklite District music over the years and not always being in a spot to say, oh, I'm going to spend 10 grand to go in the studio to make an album. It's like, okay, if I have all the tools here, why don't I learn? And that's kind of what it was, like 7, 8 years ago, just really because I wanted to make my own demos and not have to always rely on other people or have to
Right.
wait around. It's like, bro, I want to get going now.
Hmm.
So if I can start getting the ball rolling, and of course, the first few years it was terrible sounding, and it's just again learning. I would still go in the studio and work with producers, and again, I still will. I'm probably going to next year. Our most recent album called "You Can Do Better," I produced the majority of it, and again, for me, it's just more about finding what is right for this time period. It felt right that I was back in my own studio here. So that album felt right. Next time I might be like, okay, let's change it up. Let's go to Nashville or wherever it may be. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
yeah. Yep.
Very cool. Now, so you released a new record this past May.
Yeah.
And that was titled You Can Do Better. Is there like a theme to the record as far as like what the songs are about? Is there meaning behind them? Like what does that record mean to you?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So yeah, it's kind of for me, it's a personal thing. Like, so a lot of my fan base will know, like me growing up, I lost my mom at a young age, like to a drug overdose. And I've had a lot of like traumas and like we all have. I mean, it's life. But that's kind of always been a like driving force in me being an artist and writing music. Like as a young kid, that was kind of my way to cope and things like that. So this album, You Can Do Better, came out on May 3rd, 2024, this past May. And that date was significant for me because that was actually the 25th anniversary of my mom's death.
Oh,
so
wow.
May 3rd has always been like a big thing. And 10 years before this year, let's say 2014, about a decade ago, more than a decade now, the first album came out, the first official, let's say, like as a real like career project. I felt like that's always, my father passed away in 2017, suicide. And again, to me, it always felt like my life was kind of like this nightmare of a movie that I never wanted to be in, and amongst all this other stuff. And I guess, I have addictions, alcoholism, opiates, painkillers I was addicted to. And I really felt like from 10 years ago, building up into the last couple of years was me like finding out how to cope with life and blah, blah, blah. So long story short, putting out this album, You Can Do Better, after I'd been sober for a couple of years, 6 years now, no drinking, several years off like the opiates. Just something felt like it was the right time to like kind of let that part of me go, I guess. And it felt like there was a long time in my life where I thought that was never going to be possible, because it just felt like my life was constantly being followed by like a black cloud or a shadowed by some sort of negativity. And I always have the anxiety and the thoughts of impending doom all the time from being a little kid and seeing all this kind of shit. But, like, there's something freeing about 25 years later to the very day being able to put out a project called You Can Do Better after I've been fortunate enough to have real success and make music my career. Like, to me, aside from any of the other perks or stuff that comes with it, the storytelling aspect of that from me as a personal artist, that makes it almost worth it. And to me, that's like storytelling at its ultimate finest, even if only a handful of people ever really know about that.
Right.
I mean? Yeah. Also makes it like mysterious, I guess, or gives it some mystique, or that's what truly makes it art, in my opinion. So yeah.
Very cool.
That's one thing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on your sobriety. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you, bro. Thank you.
Very, very good to hear. And you've been through it, man. That's crazy. I was not aware of that, your story. So that's pretty wild. I'm sorry that you've had to, weather that storm. But obviously you got through it and you're doing great. So that's awesome to see.
It's the growth, man. And I, again,
absolutely.
I tell people all the time, relating even almost to life, I always, in a weird way, it almost feels like, had I not experienced a lot of that stuff, I don't know if I would be doing what I do today. Obviously, I can get deep with stuff like that, if that makes sense. I mean, just one little thing in life can send you off in so many different directions. So everything happens for a reason. But yes, I do feel comfortable today knowing, or at least feeling like I somewhat got to the other side of that a little bit, so.
Absolutely. That's great. So was forming the band kind of an outlet for you during that time? Like, that's kind of why you started it, or it was just, you had plans to do this eventually anyways?
No, it was pretty much what you said. It was basically, like my mom had passed away. I just turned like 9, 10 years old. My uncle had always played guitar, her brother, and I was really close to him. And about a year after she had passed, he was out here visiting me, and I was driving with him. We were going to like these morning workouts, even me as a young kid, like just, it was a weird time, like just trying to figure out life. And he had Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears song playing. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's like a 7-minute epic. And just the sound of Ozzy's voice I had never heard before. I asked him who it was. He said it was this guy Ozzy. And I asked him to play the song a second time. And there was just something about the message of No More Tears, being in the spot I was in. And for the first time, like feeling that hope from the music, where it was like, wow, like maybe everything can be okay, or whatever it was at the time, and that was really like, I swear to you, man, from that day when I asked him to play that song the second time, I can still remember it right now. I was like, that is what I'm going to do in life. And I have not stopped for one day since then. And that was like 25, 26 years ago, whatever, so.
Wow.
Yep.
Very cool.
That's me though. That's my story. Everyone's different, but
Yeah.
that was, and you're right. It was the music that kind of, I had to find something I could grab onto. Instead of being the kid who everyone knew at school as, oh, that's the kid whose mom died. And it's just weird when you're at that age, and I needed something that I felt like I could grab onto, and the music was it. And here we are.
Yeah,
honestly.
absolutely. So I did a little bit of digging to look you up and, see, what you've done, everything, and listen to your catalog and all that. So you've had 4 songs chart on Billboard.
Yes. Yes, sir.
What's that feel like? That's crazy. That's pretty wild.
Again, when I go back to the 16-year-old me who was obsessed with the Billboard charts and looking how that worked and how bands would put out singles and how they got on the radio, it's pretty awesome, man. Because it's like that thing that you tie success with in your mind. It's like, okay, got a Billboard hit, but as time goes on, I feel like I've had other things happen even on like YouTube and the more basic stuff that has meant so much more and done so much bigger stuff. But yes, absolutely. To have a Billboard charting single is, again, it puts it in the history books. That's something they can't take away. It gives it its flowers, so to speak. So it's an accomplishment I'm definitely proud of. Absolutely.
Very
maybe
cool.
There'll be more in the future. Who knows?
Absolutely. And then is it right that You Can Do Better is in the running for a nomination for a Grammy?
Yep. A couple months ago, we were submitted. This is our first time officially being submitted into the Grammys, which again, I think is very cool. So, I had to learn a lot too, how that works, how the process of, you think that, oh, a song comes out and someone just picks it. Like there's a voting process. There's like just getting nominated to be nominated is like thing, which is essentially what we were. We didn't get past that, but again, I'm proud to be in that, and to get our name in there for the first time is incredible. We just broke $1 million in streaming revenue. Just about to close our first 1 billion streams, and it's crazy. Again, when I always go back to being the teenager with dreams to now being a guy in my early 30s and making a full-time career out of something like this. I credit the use of platforms like we're on right now versus the traditional things like radio and Billboard charts, because it really is so direct to consumer. Like when this comes out, I cannot wait to share it to my audience, like on YouTube, for example. Just share the content, and it's like building a family, like Jamie, our mutual friend, always says, and I really believe that that's a very important thing these days, for sure.
Absolutely. It actually brings me to another note I made here is so your following, it's very supportive, and especially in like the sense of you have a Discord that they're very active with, and all that stuff. So how do you build that and then like continue to find the time to have that relationship with your fans, because Discord is something that it's like, I know it's on your computer, it can be on your phone, whatever, and you can continue to talk to these people and socialize with them in any way, but it still takes time, Yeah. So I guess how do you find that time and balance that with everything else you've got going on with the band?
I think over the years, it's kind of like you wear many hats. Like, years ago, I wouldn't have had a team that's out there helping. And, when you are a one-man show, you are kind of the manager and the publicist and trying to put this together. So, for example, the YouTube channel has just under 250,000 subscribers right now, which is no small feat in of itself, obvious.
Absolutely.
So really, the Discord server is fairly new. I think we started it around when this new album came out, and it actually started because of a long-term fan that used to be in my YouTube live streams. He happens to be a moderator for a couple of other big Discord servers. He and I basically started talking, and essentially, we created the Discord server, put him in charge of it, and we've kind of been slowly building it organically for a few months now. I think Monday we're doing our first kind of thing on there where I'm going to go on and answer a bunch of questions, but nowadays, man, it's really the team I have in place. It's too much for me to be able to get on and do all of these things personally. Again, there's just not enough time in the day when there's all of this stuff going on. So our friend Jamie, who introduced us earlier, is a big part of that. Clinton, who's in the band on the tours and is part of the management team. Whole bunch of people going, like they say, it takes a village. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That makes sense too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I just was curious as far as how you went about and were you approached about someone doing a Minecraft music video for you, or was that kind of an idea that you had as far as, this is what I want? Does anybody want to do this, or how did that come?
Yeah, I reached out basically to, long story short, after I had my first hit about 10 years ago, 2014, a song called With Me Now, there was a bit of a falling out between me and my label / management at the time. And there was a couple year stretch in there where I really didn't have any like funding or there was nothing. I had nothing to work with. Like, obviously, like how all this stuff works, all a big money game, especially when you want to get into this kind of stuff. So it was like, okay, I went on YouTube and I found a video that was called Nightcore. And basically it was like a sped up version of one of my songs and it had 1 million views on it. And
Wow.
I was, wow, because I had no idea about it, So I basically reached out to him and he was like, let's partner up. I always need songs that don't get copyright. You obviously have songs. I have the audience. So we started doing that. A couple months in, we probably did 10 million views over like a 6-month period. And during that time, I would see these Minecraft videos pop up that would have 10, 20, 30 million views.
Wow.
It's like, wow, like I got to try some of that. And it just so happened, I went on and found like the top 5, I think, biggest like Minecraft channels I could find on YouTube that did music videos.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to just reach out to these top 5. I went on their YouTube channels to the About section, found their email addresses, and I would basically just write, hey, check out these couple of videos I had just done that got 1 million views. I noticed you make music videos. I think I got some quality music that you could use and know that you're not going to get copyright. And somehow one of the top guys I emailed had just happened to have seen the collaboration I did with this other anime YouTube channel.
Okay.
And he ended up being like one of the biggest Minecraft YouTubers out there. And yeah, we have videos now that have almost 80 million views and we've done like 500 million streams there. And like I said, man, that's kind of what took me from being like a local guy in the garage to being $1 million brand in a kind of, I don't want to say a long period, but a short amount of time after years and years of legit hard work at a very small level. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, all I can say is I'm grateful. And we continue even right now. You Can Do Better. The song itself is up over 700% these last 2 weeks. Minecraft video did over 1 million views in 2 weeks, and away we go, bro.
Absolutely. That's very cool, man. Very cool. Congratulations on all your success with that as well. That's
thank you.
It's like, it's crazy because it's almost like you tapped into like a market or a way of marketing that most bands would not think of,
For sure.
So,
and maybe not even want to, because you have to admit, like, being in a band, it probably isn't the coolest thing to be like, oh, we got this Minecraft video.
Right.
The right people are going to like that, but to like the general rock concert guy, it's going to be like, what are you talking about with this? And I was kind of honest. I'm not going to lie. I mean, at first it's kind of like embarrassing a little, like when I'm trying to tell people, oh, I got 10 million views, but they'd be like, what is this video though? Like, why is all these cartoons? And, it took a while because industry people would be like, oh, that shit doesn't count.
Right.
That doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of nerds on the internet. Literally, people would say that.
Right.
But I would watch these streams build and more fans over time. Believe me when I say this was like a brick by brick, one fan at a time. I've just been doing it for a hell of a long time, excuse the language.
Right.
But you know what I mean? And now, it's just now I couldn't be any more grateful to have that community, because like you just said, it was something outside of the box.
Absolutely.
And because it was that, I'm lucky to be in the spot I'm in because I know it wouldn't have happened like this had it not been for Minecraft, anime, YouTube, the whole community doing what you and I are doing right now. All of this stuff is just as important. Doesn't matter if everything gets 10 million views, because who knows, one thing you and I aren't talking about right now that in a couple of years someone's really going to want to come back to and hear about. You just never know.
Absolutely. And
Especially
honestly,
conversations like this will live a long time. So
absolutely. And honestly, I don't think you have ever had anything to be embarrassed about with that idea, because first of all, you broke into a market that was absolutely, like, as far as I'm concerned, it's genius. Because you got eyes and ears on your music that in a way that most people would never think to do. And it doesn't matter. Like, I know, when I was in a band, it's like, oh, you have this image you have to put on and everything. But like, I recently listened to a interview with the lead singer of Slipknot and how that band was signed and, got their label and everything. And it's that same idea of it's a gimmick. No one's going to like this. It's never going to go anywhere. And now they're, one of the biggest metal bands in the world. So
right.
What the hell do we care what anybody else thinks, as long as your music's getting out there and people are listening, seeing, and, showing you the support that you were looking for. And that's what we all look for as musicians, So
true, man.
Very
and
cool.
Again, because it's them or us or whoever it is being their authentic selves. Even if it's not the coolest thing at first. I mean, maybe even for Slipknot, we could all say, yeah, it's pretty badass now. But the first time 9 guys walk out on stage in a little club, some people might be like, what is going on here? But it's like, hey, this is what we do. And again, long term, that might be the best route, being yourself. So
right.
I love that you said that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree. So typically I have people on to come on and talk music and share some tour stories. Do you got any stories that you'd like to share?
Absolutely.
Let's dive right in.
So my very first tour was 11 years ago now. It was the summer of 2013. I was opening for a band called Saving Abel. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
They sound familiar.
I'm so addicted to. They had a big hit, Addicted.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And we had the same management at the time. So again, I was fortunate that, wow, my first tour, I get to open for, I think they were already like a multi-platinum band at the time, but it was an acoustic tour. And I was like, okay, so we weren't going to get to do our normal show, but we were just happy that, wow, we're opening for a band that we've heard of before. Right. I thought that was the coolest thing. We got to know their crew. Their tour manager at the time, he would haze us quite a bit. And, it was like the early goofy stuff. So a couple of weeks in, we had a show in Joliet, Illinois, and it was my birthday that day. And, we did our opening set. It was us. And then there was another band on the tour called Art of Dying, who many of those guys became great friends. Shout out to those guys. And yeah, it was my birthday. We went on stage, and I think the last song of our set, all of the guys from Saving Abel, their crew, the tour managers, they all had plates of whipped cream that they had, and they were in the venue that they did a couple hours before, and they were all melted. And I think there was there's video of this too on YouTube somewhere, but there was 15, 20 people who just came up to me in the middle of talking to the audience, and everyone just came up and covered me with this whipped cream and all over my brand new guitar. And again, this was a time when I was just in the van. It wasn't like we had hotels. So we left that night. I was sticky all night till the next day, till I got a shower. And that's just one I always remember that's somewhat PG, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah. So was that just the band, pranking you?
Pretty much. It was the tour manager of Saving Abel. Basically, It was my birthday. They were kind of hazing, kind of pick on me a little bit, but at the same time, showing that they kind of liked me. It did put attention on me as an opening act when the singer of Saving Abel came out to do that and said happy birthday. So it was kind of you got a few things in there, but at the end of the day, I took it as a great compliment. And again, I'm learning on tour. That was my first time. So figuring out the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts, how to behave. And I just always remembered that, and I still talk to many of the Saving Abel guys, and cool. It's just cool. It's such a small world when you get out there. I'm sure you know that. And,
yeah, absolutely. So when you said that was your first tour, have you done any DIY touring, or has everything really just been a tour with a band that's kind of known at that point?
That's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. So I feel like I kind of started out in this different way where my first few tours were opening for like pretty established acts because I think before I had any real success, I was so obsessed with like finding a manager or finding someone that was actually in the music industry that just wasn't a local person, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like I was obsessed for years. I'd be emailing 50 people a week, maybe more, like in all reality. I mean, that's all I wanted to do was make this happen. So when I finally, I'm trying to think of what happened exactly first, but somehow I got hooked up with a pretty big manager. And I had this song that I had recorded with the big producer, which again was kind of another lucky thing that just so happened to have happened. And it kind of went that route. Now, years later, we would go out and do our own tours after we would open for acts, you know, a couple years ago. Okay, we're going to try our own Blacklite District headlining tour. And we would go out, and most of the nights, man, we would have like 5 people there. Maybe some nights we were playing for the bartenders. Like we, again, cutting our teeth or paying our dues, as they would say.
Right.
But again, going out and figuring out, okay, how come we have sold 100,000 downloads and have Sirius XM Octane playing our music all the time across America, and yet we go out and play shows and nobody comes out? I don't get it. So these would be the conversations we'd have. What are we doing wrong? How are these other bands that I know for a fact were not that much bigger than us at the time, that were maybe on our level, were doing such bigger shows? And to me, it was always it was always learning from the failure. I wasn't afraid to fail because I knew once I would fail with something, I'm going to learn out of that. What went wrong? So you asking about like DIY touring, I feel like what we do right now is almost more DIY than ever, because I've essentially gone back to the drawing board where, no joke, man, in the last year plus, we have gone back and been renting like American Legion halls and VFW halls instead of going into actual clubs and venues, because our audience is so different now, filled with younger kids from the anime YouTube world. And believe me when I tell you that the parents will drive the kids 5, 6. We've had people drive 10 hours on school nights to come to these shows because they want to meet me in the band. They want to see all their favorite songs that they've heard from not only our page, but the Minecraft videos and this and that. And it is so much more of a DIY community that way, where we may only have 50 kids out at the show, but they know every word to every song. We get to meet every single person afterward because we essentially make every ticket like a VIP experience with our red carpet tour. And yeah, I feel like it's more of that now than ever. Just, it's hard to say because it is DIY, although I do have a team and we're in a good place to do it, but we still have that mentality of, hey, we're people here who had this dream. What is the fan going to feel like when they come to see us? What is the experience we can give them to really make it something special? So I feel like it keeps it independent in that sense. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. What would you say your average fan's age is?
You know, it's hard to say. I would say probably 13, 14.
Okay.
It ranges at the shows. Again, it's mainly, you know, we'll see them different though. There'll be 18. The majority is going to be in that mid-teenage level though. From the streaming platforms, I think 56% is under the age of 24. Our biggest demographic is like that, like 13 to 18. And again, it's switched once we hit the anime and YouTube stuff on the radio. But it also seems like that the younger kids and the younger audience these days that consume content more. I mean, think about it. The artists you and I probably loved as young kids, those are the ones that really get you into it. You know, I'm not going to go out and hang someone's poster up in my room as a 34-year-old man probably these days. I mean, I still do in my literal studio, but you know what I'm saying? Like, as the young guy, it's like, man, Ozzy was my guy as a kid. So it was like, that is my guy or whatever. So I just feel like the young audience, you really hit them. It's a different vibe at that age when they can really get more into something, you know what
Absolutely. I'm saying? And the likelihood of them being lifelong fans is much higher too. So you'll have that support.
You got the Blink 182 album right there. Great example of, like, I remember when that was so popular as a kid, just Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that. I love that.
So I actually, a lot of people haven't caught on to this yet. So maybe somebody will hear this and recognize it. But I change the vinyl every episode. And
Okay.
it's just a little Easter egg. And a lot of times, if I have a band on that has a vinyl record and I own it, I'll just throw it up there. And a lot of times they don't even notice. So
Right,
yeah.
right. No, that's pretty cool, man. I
It's
hope
just a little Easter egg that I throw up there,
I'm hoping to get vinyl in the next year or so. So if we ever get that, I'm going to make sure we have our people send you one just in case we ever do it again.
Absolutely. Love that. And I will just say right now that you're always welcome back. I extend the invite to all of my guests. So, yeah.
Appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. So, have you toured out of the country yet?
Nope, not yet.
Do you have plans to?
I mean, we don't have any concrete plans. And at this point, we've just discussed doing things like Canada.
Right.
We might try to do some things like that. I've had a few offers over the years of promoters who have reached out from Europe, and streaming wise, we do really well in a lot of different countries over there. But it's just nothing that is in the cards just yet. Maybe someday. Like they say, never say never.
Right. Timing is everything.
Yeah, definitely not against it. It just, if the right opportunity was there and it made sense to do, I'm open to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of your favorite fan interactions you've encountered?
On our last tour, which was just a couple months ago, was our first time where we have our own bus now. So we've gone from the van to the bus as a headliner. And it was our first time doing what we call the VIP bus pass experience. So at each show, there's 6 spots, 6 essentially VIP passes where before the show, these like diehard fans is what it always turns out being, come on the bus with us for like 30 minutes or so. We answer questions, we hang out. Justin, my guitar player, and we play a couple acoustic songs. It's just kind of a cool experience. Like, again, going back to what I said earlier about us trying to come up with what would it be like for us as fans? Could I have gone to an Ozzy or Metallica show, and if I could have gone on the bus before the show, like I couldn't have imagined how cool that would have been, Mm-hmm. So last time we had these fans that would just they started bringing like gifts. Because again, it's younger fans, but just to go there and see some of the drawings that some of these kids do, or someone made a calendar for us that was literally a whole year-long calendar. Each month had like an album cover out of my catalog, and like instead of it being like Christmas or calendars will have dates on it, it would have like album anniversaries and things associated with Blacklite District. And just to get to the point where people are, again, spending their time to make something that they want to give me in person. I mean, it's just, to me, the ultimate compliment. And I don't know if I could be any more grateful for it. And just stuff like that, that I never thought I'd get to see. It's like playing, like I mentioned earlier, playing to nobody at a bar to being like, there's no way that the line out the door is kids here to see us tonight. It's just like,
right.
It's not like there's just some thing that happens where, all of a sudden we're here now. It's just like one day there was a line. It's like, wow, really? Like, you know what I mean? So I guess just little things like that. I just try not to take for granted,
Absolutely. I love that. What is do you have a most memorable show that you've played?
I think so. I think about a year and a half ago in Omaha, Nebraska, we play at this place called at Omaha. I'm losing the name right here. It's because it's been named quite a few different things. The Beach House, duh. It's like one of our main places we play. But we would go on all these tours. It was the first time that we had an all ages show, where we couldn't believe how many people showed up, like kids that knew the songs from the YouTube stuff, because we had tried that before and it wasn't a thing. And again, like I said earlier in the show, that a lot of industry people would say, oh, that stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't sell records. It doesn't sell tickets. So we never really considered that. So then just in the last couple of years to go to Omaha, where we randomly, just luckily one night had an all ages show. And when we got there and she said, oh, you've sold like, I don't remember what it was, but a decent amount of tickets, to see that, it was like, wow, I think maybe this might be at the time now where we might be able to sell more tickets than we think if we just change our perspective on this.
Mhm.
Instead of being, oh, we want to do this or that, let's try all ages shows and earlier and see if we can duplicate what we just did there in other cities. So something like that makes it memorable for me, because I feel like that is what kickstarted our run of what we call the red carpet tour that we've been on in 2024 and will continue through next year, which is our first time headlining, doing this VIP early matinee show, all ages event. And to me, that's like a mile marker in the history books of the Blacklite District journey thus far, so to speak.
Absolutely. Do you have a memory of a maybe aside from the story you've shared, but is there like a funniest moment that comes to mind?
Let me think here. A funny moment. I guess just off the top of my head, on the last tour, we were doing it as a 3-piece. It was me, Justin, and our drummer Chance, and Justin broke a string before we were going to play a song. So it was the first time that he didn't have a backup guitar. I can't remember why that day we didn't have something like that happened. Anyways, he had a Floyd Rose thing on it, so it takes a lot longer to change the string. So we started playing like a stripped down version of this song called Falling, which originally was released as this more stripped down version, just to kind of kill some time in between him. And I guess it's not that funny, but we just ended up switching the whole arrangement of this song, like moving forward, just because he broke the string. And to me, it's funny. No one else, because I'm thinking like in inner circle funny.
Right.
I can't really think of anything like that wouldn't be absolutely just not good to say. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. But again, we're pretty tame nowadays. So like I said, one of the reasons we like to do the earlier shows, like we're pretty much back at the hotel or on the bus, by 9:30, 10 o'clock. And, again, we're there to put on a show and meet our fans, compared to, 5, 6 years ago when it was just about partying and this and that. And again, I feel like that was also a growth stage where it's like, we're not here to party and mess around. Like, we're here to build real fans. Let's start treating this like what it is,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mindset goes a long way. I always believe that, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. The right mindset's going to bring you where you're longing to go. So.
Yep.
Let's see here. You got another story for me?
Let's see here. Trying to think of something good. It's funny because when I'm sitting around with friends, I'll have tons of them, but like on the spot, where's the way to go? Let's see here. Oh, like one of the Minecraft videos, for example. The second one we did, it was a song called Cold as Ice, which is like my biggest Minecraft song for sure. That's the one that has almost 80 million views on it. And itself has, tens of millions of streams. But that video came out, and all of a sudden there was a fan that sent out a tweet at the time, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are trending." And I just thought he meant it was like a cool video or something. So to go click on this video after, again, these years of, having a little minor thing here and there, click on the Minecraft video, the second one we did, and it literally says like number 12 on trending. And I don't know if you know, but on YouTube, it's like a very big deal. Like the trending list, like it's usually filled with like hip hop videos and movie trailers. And to me, I was just always mind blown that, people could spend, people want to get signed to labels so that they can get money to spend large sums of money to like get on the radio, or like I said, it's all a bunch of, I'm just real when I talk about it. A bunch of it's just scam money, especially radio and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, so the funny thing is that to have all these industry people who would say, "Oh, that type of stuff doesn't count," and yet to have the most success without spending a penny compared to what these people want, it just shows how off things really are, man. And I think the key behind what I'm saying is that you always got to follow what you believe is right. You don't always have to necessarily follow what. If you feel like it's wrong, it's probably wrong, Right. I know that wasn't what you asked, but that's where it ended. That's fine. The art of the interview, my friend.
Absolutely. Was there any live performance that you've attended that was like at a young age that made you really want to pursue this as a career?
I think I was always wanting to pursue this after I heard the Ozzy thing, because I didn't attend my first concerts until a couple years later. But every time I would see a concert, it would just drive me that much more. So when I was 15, I saw Motley Crue for the first time. They were on their Carnival of Sins. I think it was kind of their reunion tour in like 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just seen Van Halen a few months before in the same arena. It was an amazing show. Sammy Hagar was on vocals. Very stripped down rock show, packed arena. But then when I went and saw Motley Crue, it was like the full production, the pyro, the circus. I mean, the motorcycles, all this extra stuff. And that was always kind of like something that really inspired me, that just made those bands kind of feel larger than life, that it wasn't just the music, it was the theatrics. And then later on, like watching the behind the musics on some of these bands, like the stories that go into it. And it would just be those kind of things that maybe in some sense I was like trying to vicariously live through those fantasies because of my childhood and stuff like that, and then just ended up here being a musician, kind of like, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
yeah, absolutely.
it's crazy.
So have you seen any of the videos of Motley Crue on this past tour they did, like the most recent one?
I believe so, like
Yeah.
footage performances.
Yeah, of what's the singer's name? And
Vince Neil. Yep. Yep. Some fans really put it on, man. That's for sure.
I don't know. At a
I
certain
hate
point,
to say it. It's a bummer, and I've seen it like with many artists these days. I know Bon Jovi's having a lot of vocal troubles. I think Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, they just had to cancel their final tour.
yeah, I did see that. Yeah, yeah.
It must suck. Like, I know Vince probably, that's not his excuse. We know that, but
Right. Yeah.
just going to the thought of like getting older and feeling like you want to perform so bad, but you just can't pull it off. That's got to be a bummer too.
Yeah. Look at. Have you seen the footage of Frankie Valli?
Oh yeah,
I mean that one's
recently,
weird
actually.
too. Yeah, that one
Yeah.
came out in the last couple of weeks. But I mean,
Like he
he's
was
like
barely moving, man.
he's like 98 years old.
Is he
You
that
know?
old?
Yeah. He's in his late 90s. He's up there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Like
so-
for real.
Yeah, and and you watch it and you're like, does he owe someone money? Like what is
He was up
happening
there
here?
I saw that clip just a few
Yeah.
days ago. Wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, yeah. Do you have a let's see? Do you have a favorite city to not just play but maybe visit while you're on tour? And what do you do? On your off days, or if you have time before the show or whatever? Do you do any sightseeing, anything like that?
We don't get to do a lot of sightseeing. A couple months ago, we played Washington, D.C., and then we had the next day off and we were staying there. So me and probably half the crew guys, we got on like those electric scooters, because they're all over the cities. And we rode around pretty much, 3, 4, 5 hours and went and saw all the monuments and stuff, which I had never seen before. But typically, like especially on a show day, we're never going to get to sightsee because it's just packed from noon to end of show is setting up and this and that. But usually by the time we get to days off, like I am usually so beat up by then, like I need that day to just relax. And a lot of times, like some of the other boys will go out and do just kind of local stuff, but we don't get to do a ton. I wish we could do more. Hopefully we will in the future, but
Absolutely.
I try to here and there.
Yeah.
So.
Sheets, Wawa, or Buc-ee's?
Man, I have to go off the top of my head. I have to go with Sheets,
Okay.
just because I got well, this is kind of a story. We were about a decade ago leaving a festival. It was just me and this guy Roman who was in the band, and it was just me and him bringing the van and trailer home, and the van broke down. The transmission went out. So we were stuck somewhere in West Virginia for like 5 days. The mechanic shop was right up the road, and we stayed at this little mom and pop motel, and all there was a Sheets across the street. So every day we would just go over there, and I got used to they got a good selection of stuff for me not being used to Sheets.
Right. Yeah.
And again, that was back when I was a big drinker too, so anything probably would have been good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've never been to Buc-ee's. I just on this recent tour wanted to go, but Wawa's not bad either. Which one do you like out of those?
I've never been to Buc-ee's. I stopped touring before that was really a thing.
Okay.
So
I've still never been to one. I think I only just saw one for the first time recently.
I gotta tell you, I've had a lot of guests on here, and every one of them says Buc-ee's is like an amusement park for a gas station.
Yeah, I
So
hear that.
I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, whatever next vacation we go on, I don't care if we take a detour, we have to stop at a Buc-ee's. We gotta find one. I gotta experience this. But
Dude,
if I am picking between Sheetz and Wawa, I'm probably going Sheetz. I do enjoy. I mean, I think they're pretty similar, but
yeah, I've just only had Wawa a couple times where I've had
Same.
Sheetz a lot, so I don't have a full fair shot at Wawa.
Yeah, I'll put it the way my most recent guest put it. When I was in need, Sheetz was there.
That's totally fair. That says all you need to say right there. That says it. Sheetz is there.
Yeah, absolutely. So while touring, is there anything that you've had food-wise that you hadn't had before, or that while you're out, you're like, okay, next time we're coming through, this is the spot?
There's a place in Nashville and on the east called a Cookout, which is really
Love
good.
Cookout.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Love
Yeah.
Cookout.
Oh man, if we're near a Cookout, I'm going, man.
Absolutely.
To me, it tastes like you actually grilled it right off the backyard grill or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a hot sub station or sub place called Penn Station, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of like basic when it comes to the food. I don't really like to. I like a few select things, and that's pretty much it. So
Okay.
I don't like to go try a bunch of new stuff. We like to go to steakhouses here and there, and we just had a real fancy steak meal in Denver called Ruth's Chris, one of those expensive places. It was pretty good.
Very cool. What is your favorite song to perform live, and why?
That's a good one. It's always fun to play newer music just because it's new and but there's really nothing like playing the songs that people know. So my two would probably be Cold as Ice and The Struggle, which are just the most sing-along songs, maybe even The Struggle a little more, just because it's so personal. It was one of the early songs that's really known. And sometimes when everyone's just singing along, that vibe is right, like you could say, okay, like we know this song has it, and definitely.
Very cool. And then do you have any pre-show rituals or superstitions?
Absolutely. So I always try to do my vocal warm-ups a couple hours before the show, but lately in the last year or so, like let's say 15 minutes before I'm about to go on stage, I basically will go outside and I'm like fully dressed up, makeup, like everything on. I basically run in like a couple big circles. Only for no reason other than I'm trying to kind of like wear myself out before I go on stage. I just feel like there's something about me getting going and like before I go on stage instead of it happening up there for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird, but to me, that's the way to go.
It kind of it sounds smart because you're kind of like you're
kind
losing
of
your breath
building
before you get
stamina
there.
in a way.
Instead of losing your
exactly.
breath on stage, it's already kind of, you're a little winded. So that I get that. That makes sense.
Because I would always notice on stage that after I get winded, like the second time, it was always stronger. You wouldn't get as winded easy. And then, of course, that's always on the first night or two. For me, it's like 3-4 nights in. Like by show 5, I feel pretty like I'm ready to go up there and tear through it like nothing, It just takes a few days to get back into it if I haven't been rehearsing. But lately, just because I've had my voice blow out a few times, so after the holidays, beginning of January, I'll probably start rehearsing here in my studio about 6 weeks before we go out. I'll be in here like singing full songs, probably from 3 to 4 songs a day, adding a song or two in every other day till I'm doing about an hour. So again, the voice has had weeks to prepare for the trauma that the shows will give it,
Absolutely, yeah. So I play drums, and I also do all the harmonies, or I used to do all the harmonies in my band.
Okay.
So I understand the preparation for
For
that
sure.
because
You gotta
I'm
have
already
it for
winded
that.
as it is, so
Oh God, I could only imagine having to do vocals while drumming. Dang. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it comes natural to me just because I've been drumming for 30 years at this point. So
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you, man?
I am 33, turning 34 fairly soon in a couple
Okay.
months. But
Gotcha. I just turned 34, so we're basically
nice.
just
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I started really young. I played piano for 3 years when I was a baby. Basically, started playing drums while I was playing piano, and then quit piano to just focus on drums. And I wish I never quit piano.
Oh yeah. No, I heard that, man. Yeah, I never really got into piano, but I did learn like years later, obviously being in the studio, just MIDI keyboard stuff, nothing official, but it does come in handy, that's for sure.
Yeah, like I just throughout my life, I basically kind of kept up with what I knew. So I'm like, I'd say I'm above average as a pianist, but I'm by no means am I a pianist. You know what I mean? I have no idea how to play piano as an actual person who plays piano. I just know what I learned in that period of time.
I'd consider myself the same for sure.
Yeah. And then, I dabble on guitar and some other stuff here and there, but again, I'm a drummer. That's about it. So
awesome.
Have you been in, has there been any close calls or like altercations on tour? Anything you've experienced?
Well, I guess it depends, like between who? Just anybody?
Yeah, anybody really.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely crazy nights out there. I mean, especially back in like the drinking days, I mean, I'm trying to, there's a lot of stuff that back in the day, man, like again, looking up to like Motley Crue and Ozzy. I mean, when I was in my early 20s, again, I was fortunate that I got to go out on the road and had a bit of a hit early on.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to like live the lifestyle and be partying, and there was always some sort of craziness going on and people just being drunk and stupid, punching our own van windows out and just the dumbest stuff. So I'm actually more happy like just being away from that kind of stuff. I'm happy that I had it and went through it and enjoyed it. But there is something about coming out on the other side of that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I understand.
I guess I just try to stay on that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for my own sanity, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Positivity.
Absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely. Love that. Kyle, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I have one final question for you. What's next? What's in the future for the band?
Well, John, appreciate you having me on. Would love to do it again sometime. I hope we get to. Next up, we are currently announcing dates for our 2025 leg of our Red Carpet Tour. The first show in Indianapolis is nearly sold out. All the VIP is already sold out. Atlanta almost sold out. So we're going to focus on the touring. We have some pretty major announcements coming at the very start of the year regarding our future, which I'm very excited to announce to everybody soon. And we just look to keep the growth going, to get out there, meet more of our fans, and just continue the journey that has been Blacklite District thus far. And what I do is take things to the next level, and I hope to continue to do so.
Absolutely. Again, I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything you want to promote as far as social media, anything like that?
No, pretty much just at Blacklite District on all the socials, official BLD on Twitter/X. The new album, You Can Do Better, is out now, and just keep watching for more tour dates. And again, appreciate you, John, a fan of the show, and hope to see you again.
Perfect. You're welcome back anytime. Everybody, thank you so much for sticking around, watching, listening. Make sure you give Blacklite District a listen. Follow them across all platforms. All their information will be down below in the description. You can find all their links down there. Keep your ears out for new music eventually. Go see them on tour, support them, do whatever you can to support them. They're good people. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, bitch.